Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to steal my lady. Spiders in the mirror and things can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue?
Just waiting for the planes to stop flying overhead. Hi, welcome back to another vlog. So we're going to be doing the last few days of the Kindle Clear Out Readathon in this vlog, and I just thought I would give you an update. So currently I am reading Cold-Hearted Rake by Kleypas. This is the first book in the Ravenels series, and I'm listening to this on audio. I just happen to have a physical copy also because yes. I need to have all of Kleypas in physical form. I just do. So I am liking this book. I'm in chapter 14, so I'm not quite halfway through. I'm liking this. I've heard a lot. One of the reasons I haven't started this series is because I've heard this is one of if most people have a least favorite Kleypas book, it's kind of usually this one. And I can kind of see why. I don't know how I feel about this couple yet. So this book follows the lady Kathleen. Kathleen, she has just recently been widowed. She was only married to her husband for like 3 days, and she just recently became a widow. And her husband's cousin, I believe, is the one who inherited the earldom from her husband who passed away. So he comes in to inherit it, and then he wants to like fix it up and live there. So the late Earl's sisters are still living there too with Kathleen. And I have a feeling that that is how we're going to have all of the romances for, well, not all, but probably several of the romances for the Ravenels is going to be those women's. Because I know that we see and we mention, and they mention heroes that I know show up in later books, like West, and I think Tom has been mentioned, and for sure Winterbourne has been, which is in the next book. So the whole plot is basically that. Kathleen likes her horses, so I really love that aspect of it, and I love that they are specific about the breeds. I really, really get frustrated when people include horses in books, and they literally, you can tell that they know nothing about horses. They just kind of threw them in there. So I can tell that Lisa knows her stuff, at least about the breed, so that's interesting because the breed is Arabian horses. Anyway, I'm liking this. I'm not loving it. There are parts of this where I can find my attention is sort of wandering, and I have to rewind it to listen to what I've just read. There is an attraction. It's basically purely attraction between Kathleen and Devon at this time. And that's interesting, but it's never really enough. That is never enough to get me really on board with a book. You know, like, I need more than that, because attraction is easy, right? People are pretty. Attraction is not difficult to find in this world. We, like, boring. I need more. I need a little bit more than that. So, I mean, obviously attraction is important, but also, I repeat, attraction is easy. It just is. So, I am hoping to like this, but at this point, I sort of feel like, it's fine. It's fine. I like it. I mean, it's good because it's Kleypas, but I will definitely say that this one is the only one of hers that I am having a hard time wanting to pick it up. So I think that says a lot, because usually when I read one of hers, I'm instantly riveted and I just want to binge it until I'm finished with it. So yeah, interesting. Not a bad one, but also not a new favorite. And then I also have been reading all week, it's taking me a really long time, on my Kindle, an arc of Scourge of My Heart by Loraine Heath. Now this one, I am loving this one so much. I fully expect this to be a 5-star read for me. This is Loraine Heath's new book that comes out, I believe, March 30th. Let's see. Yes, this comes out March 30th. This is book 1 in her new series called Once Upon a Dukedom. So this book is really interesting because we have Lady Catherine, who has to marry a titled man in order to inherit a cottage that she really wants. And, you know, that's not uncommon. That happens all the time. One or the other, they have to marry an earl to get their inheritance. That's fairly common. So the interesting thing here is that Griff, the hero, is the second son of an earl, so he's what's referred to as a spare, so he's not going to inherit. And those are the two that are having an attraction and a romance, and I am very much into it. Now, there was a little bit of, like, the beginning of this is very, very sweet. Like, you can see the buildup of these two. Like, you can see there's this powerful attraction, but there's also more, and it just is so perfect. There is this moment when they are out wandering around. They go on a moonlit walk in the garden, and it's like dangerous because she can't get compromised, you know. And Griff, the hero, tells her about his dream, this dream that he has to open this club that he really wants to, that is all about like, you know, like women past a certain age, and for, like, no earls can come in, no debutantes can come in. Anyone who is going to be, like, available or eligible for a good match is not welcome in this club. So this is specifically for people who are, like, on the shelf, women on the shelf, or spare sons, you know, things like that. And it was just this really beautiful moment where they just really connected, and him being willing to share his dream really unlocked this level with is it Kathleen? Oh, now I'm mixing up heroine's name. Yes, Catherine! Okay, so we have Catherine and we have Kathleen. Anyway, you could see that really unlocked Catherine. It really unlocked and let her really trust him and allow herself to start to have these feelings for him, even though it's impossible because she has to marry an earl. So she ends up sort of competing for the hand of the Duke at this time, because if she marries him, then she gets her inheritance, and that inheritance means a lot to her. It's not just that she needs the money, like, she specifically wants this for her dream, the cottage. And the Duke has requested that all the young women write a letter to him to tell him about her qualities, or why she would make a good duchess, basically. And that is where we end up getting very twisty plot around that. And I don't want to spoil it for you because it's such a wonderful surprise when you see that it sort of hedges into, like, this is like a bonkers plot, you know, like, oh my gosh, it's so freaking good. Like, and the heroine, like, she appears to be very, like, straight-laced and this rule follower, but there are moments when she's alone with Griff, or when she really sort of pushes it and does something very daring and very brave, and you can see her, like, sort of walk in and step into her power, and she realizes that she has this power and she doesn't want to just marry a man for a title and be sort of subject to his will. It's just beautiful. So I fully expect this to be 5 stars. I can't wait to keep reading it. I'm reading this on my ebook, so I don't have a ton of time to read it, but I am about 60% of the way through, so I hope to finish it today. Now, I have a ton of work to do. It's the time of year. It's literally just all the time. My business does really well, and I am always having orders to fill, so I feel very lucky for that. And if I get behind, then I have to spend a lot of time trying to catch up, and that's sort of where I'm at right now, where I was behind because I took some time off for I wasn't feeling well, and now I'm trying to catch up. So that's what's happening. So I'm going to continue listening to Cold-Hearted Rake, although I wish it was the Loraine Heath one. And then I don't know what I'll pick up after this for my audiobook. But that was a very long intro. Thank you for coming to this vlog. I'll keep you updated on my progress. I'll probably check in when I finish this, unless something major happens that I feel like I need to share with you. See y'all later! Well. Good morning. I finished this. I finished Cold-Hearted Rake literally like 2 minutes ago. And I gave it 3 stars. Oh, I see now why people don't like this book. Okay, so let's talk about it. The reason I gave this 5 stars, the number one reason, is that there Kathleen and Devon's love was very unbelievable for me. They had a lot of chemistry, but they went from chemistry, physical chemistry, and sort of not liking each other to a declaration of love literally within like the last few pages. And they have such a history of like they have a really weird, I don't know that weird is the right word. They have a very, yeah, I'm gonna say weird. They have a very weird relationship. Like they have this real strange dynamic. And I think a lot of it is because of Devon, how he is such a, like I wanted to read this one part because if you haven't read the series yet, I feel like this is pretty interesting and it sums up the Ravenel family really well. This is what Lisa says. She says, the Ravenels, the family, they yielded to every temptation, indulged in every sin, and scorned every virtue, with the result that they tended to die faster than they could reproduce. Now there were only 2 left. Oh, man. So I would say the reason I gave it 3 is because it really, like, their love was not believable at all. I felt like the majority of this book was them having this constant tension, push, and pull between each other, and very little tenderness, a lot of chemistry, but very little tenderness, very little emotion, very little love. So, and that, you know I don't like that. And so, yeah, that was a 3-star read for me. I also felt like this book very much focused on Helen and Winterbourne's story, which is going to be in book 2, Marrying Winterbourne, which I tried to find at the library, the audiobook, because I don't really want to buy it. And I can't find it. Now, I know this is a fan favorite, too. I know a lot of... Hey, don't knock your foods over! Thank you. A lot of people love this book, so I'm really excited to get to that, and I am really, really excited to see how Lisa makes us get on board with this hero, because when you see him in this book, he is pretty despicable. Like, the closing scene in this book, or right before the end in this book, something happens with Helen and Winterbourne where they kiss, and Helen ends up, like, pushing him away. She didn't like it. And she, hey, can you not tip your food over, please? Come and apologize to the people. Come here. Thank you. Say, I am sorry. Look right here. Look right here. Say, I'm sorry for always interrupting and just being a general naughty pants. He's not really very sorry. I love you. Can I have a kiss? You want to smell the book? He always just goes kind of nuts over used books, even though I've had this one for a while. What about this one? What about this one? You can't eat it. Okay, go. Thank you. And what was I saying? I forgot. Oh yeah, so the closing, one of the last scenes we see, not in this book, with Helen and Winterbourne in this book, so they kiss, Helen pushes him away because she's not enjoying it, and he gets really angry with her, and so there's this whole scene where Helen feels so guilty for saying no. And that, I always really hate to see that in our female characters, in our female love interests, or I guess in the men if it was the opposite way, when they say no and then they feel so much guilt and they're worried that their partner is going to be mad at them, and I just hate that so much. So that was really sad and heartbreaking, and yeah, I'm real intrigued, especially because of how this ended. I need to read this one right now. I need to know how that one gets fixed. So overall, it's a 3-star. Like, it's not, this is my least favorite Lisa Kleypas, by far my least favorite, but it's still Lisa Kleypas, so it's still good. Like, and even all the things that you could pick apart about Devon, about how unlikable he is, which he is a very unlikable hero. And I feel like that's something that Lisa does so well, and that's something that I love about her books, is the way that she gives her heroes a completely amazing redemption arc, where she takes this gruff, unlikable, kind of brutish hero who you really don't like, and then transforms them through love at the end to where they're just, you know, and where they change for the better because they're in love, you know? And I do love that journey because love is powerful and love changes people. And I love how Lisa captures that so much. I think Derek Craven is a really good example of a hero like that. I would also say Cam from Again the Magic is a really good example of a hero like that too, where love, even though his story is a little bit more complicated, but love is the thing that changes them, that transforms that hero. And I just think she does that so well. So I'm not opposed to like Devon as a hero at all. He is unlikable, but I'm also really interested. I was really interested in his story, and I was really interested in how this couple was going to make it work. How were they going to make this relationship work? How was Lisa going to get me on board with this romance? And the answer is she really didn't. Like, I still don't believe. Well, that's not really true. So here's the other thing that I think is really interesting about this is, so Lisa writes Devon so well. He is such an interesting character. He's essentially a bit of a villainous character, you know, on a small scale. And so all of his interactions, all of his actions are very much in character for him. So even at the end, when he declares his love, even when they end up getting together, it's very much real and true for his character. And I really appreciate that. I think she did that really well. But I also didn't necessarily enjoy that reading experience, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the thing where I feel like a 4-star book for me is a book that I really enjoyed, that I enjoyed the reading experience of it, you know, and I was happy and satisfied at the end. I may have had some trouble with some parts, but a 4-star book is a solid, I enjoyed this book. A 3-star book isn't necessarily one that I enjoyed the whole way through, and that's really how this was. So while a part of me wants to rate it higher because I feel like her writing is just so stellar, and I feel like she did an excellent job of keeping her characters very true to life, and just in telling the story in general, and really beginning the whole dynasty of the Ravenel family in here. Like, that is something else that was impressive about this, is that you can really see the whole setup for this family in later books to come, and I'm really, really excited to read the rest of the books. And this is also a series that I would say you're definitely going to want to read this book first if you haven't read this series, even though it's not my like I said, it's my least favorite Lisa Kleypas, and I love Lisa Kleypas. This is definitely my least favorite of hers. I still think that you have to read this before you get into the other books, and especially before you read Marrying Winterbourne. Like, I don't know how you could jump into this without having read this, because a large portion of this is Helen and Winterbourne's story. So I don't know, I'm really impressed with this, but I'm also like, didn't love it, you know, but also there's not really a whole lot about the book itself that I want to rant about. I feel like she made an interesting choice with her hero character and how she developed him and how she built him. And because of the way that she did that, she had to remain true to his character. That doesn't mean that you're going to like him, you know what I mean? The heroine, I haven't really talked a lot about her because, honestly, she's a little unforgettable. She's not one of my favorite Lisa heroines at all. She's a little bit, lacks a little bit of a backbone, you know, and I feel like this can be very relatable too, until Helen is threatened, and then you see her just develop this spine of steel and just go after Winterbourne because of what happened with him and Helen. And I think that's super relatable because I think I can relate to that really well. Like, people can be rude to me, people can say things to me, people can hurt me, and I'll just be like, oh. But if you hurt someone that I love, I'm coming for you. Like, I will burn the world down for people that I love. Like, don't block me, YouTube. I'm not serious. But you know what I mean? Like, and that's how Kathleen was. She was exactly... Is her name Kathleen? Yes, Kathleen. Names! I read 2 books with K names. And that's exactly how Kathleen is. Like, she's very much a little bit of a pushover in that she lets people get away with stuff, specifically Devon, right, and her husband who died, get away with stuff that makes her feel bad and that hurts her. But when someone does that to Helen, she's like, you will not get away with that, you know? And I love that a lot. So I don't necessarily dislike Kathleen. It's just that I don't really love her either, you know? So yeah, this was an interesting reading experience. I'm glad I read it. I'm really glad I read it. I'm glad I can now move along to this Stern Peppermint Daddy right here. Very excited about this. And finish the rest of the series. So it was still a fun reading experience. It was just a little bit unsatisfying as far as my romance loving heart wanted. I wanted more romance. So yeah. That was a very long clip. Okay. Now it's time to pick a new audiobook, and I don't know which one I'm gonna pick. Let's see. I'm also still reading Scourge of My Heart, but I'm not finished with that, although I am freaking loving it so much. I only have the ebook of that, not the audio, so I don't have a lot of time to read it. I read it in the night when I woke up for like an hour, and I'm so close. I think I have like an hour and a half left in my Kindle, so I'll update you with that when I finish it. I'm so excited because I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Unless it takes a real big turn for the worse, it's going to be a 5-star read. But I've talked so much right now that I don't want to keep going on and on and on and on. Okay, let's see. What else shall we read? I think I want to pick a shorter book because the Kindle Clear Out Readathon, I think it ends tomorrow. Is tomorrow the last day? I don't even know. Today is Thursday, the 18th. So let's see. I think I want to pick my shortest book. And that is... Okay, that is When Ashes Fall by Marnie Mann. And I really don't know what this is about, other than it says it's an emotionally charged love story. And I think it says it's been said that you can't love two men at the same time. You can't split your heart, soul, and body in half. But I'm here to tell you, you can. So, love triangle. We're going to read that one because it's only 6 hours. So that one, definitely I can finish that today. If I listen to that in 2 times speed, that's a 3-hour read. This vlog is going to be so long. Okay, I'll see y'all in a bit. Hello, my friends. It's a new day. Today is technically the last day of the Kindle Clear Out Readathon, but I'm going to keep vlogging so I can finish my Loraine Heath arc. I'm almost done with it. Oh my gosh, it's so good, you guys. Scourge of My Heart. I am loving this book so freaking much. I just love it. I'm gonna wait until I finish it and then tell you my more in-depth thoughts. Hopefully there'll be in-depth thoughts. I don't know. So I'm going to keep vlogging until I for sure finish that one. So I finished When Ashes Fall by Marnie Mann. This book was very short. It was, this is a contemporary romance. It is the premise of it, or the blurb that it says, let's see if I can, how much am I going to tell you? Okay. So it's basically, the basic premise is a woman who is in love with 2 men at the same time. And that's pretty much all it tells you on the back cover on the blurb. And so I was very excited about this. I don't even remember where I found out about this. I think it may have just been suggested to me on Kindle. And I saw the blurb and I was like, that sounds like angst, and I love angst, so let's read that. And I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. I was very disappointed in this. So I felt like the promise of one woman in love with two men, I felt like that was very clickbaity. That's a very clickbaity type of title in a way, you know, it just seems like I don't feel like it delivered on that at all. So it's not a love triangle, it's not a poly relationship, it is not that. So I'm now going to start talking about spoilers, specifically why I didn't like this book, and I'm kind of going to, not necessarily rant, but I'm not going to be super positive because I had a lot of issues with this book. So if you don't want to hear that, and if you don't want to be spoiled, fast forward until the spoiler thing is gone. So this book was basically about a woman who has gone through a severe trauma. She is a paramedic and she meets this man, Dylan, who is a pilot. They meet, they fall in love, and the timeline of this is a little bit back and forth. So you have 3 different perspectives. You have both heroes and the heroine. Now, this is the spoilery part, so if you don't want to be spoiled, click away right now. So she ends up having a relationship with Dylan before she even meets the other guy, whose name I can't even remember, Smith. And they fall in love, and Dylan is killed in the Boston bombing. So all of these, so there's a present day point of view with the heroine. You have a flashback with the hero talking about how much he loves her and he's going to propose to her and all this other stuff. And then you also have a present day interaction with her and the hero. And I don't know if there was supposed to be some mystical, like it was his spirit who came back, because the scenes with her and him in the present, they were pretty erotic, and they were also just a little bit, like, it was very obvious that he was dead. I feel like that's the thing that was frustrating me the most, is like, it sort of was trying to present this mystery of, oh, why can't she be with Dylan right now because she loves him, but why can't she be with Smith either, you know, like, so it felt like it was trying to create this tension between all 3 of them, but it was so completely obvious that he was dead, and that she was either having, like, hallucinations or visions or something, talking to his spirit, you know, now, but he wasn't really there. Like, it was very, very obvious. And I feel like that was a major complaint of mine, was that it didn't promise on what it delivered, because obviously, like, it just felt a little Nicholas Sparksy to me, you know? It felt a little bit, it just felt like it was drama porn, and I just hate that. I feel like, now I love angst, and I really can get behind, like, some sad, heartfelt, emotional books, you know, like, I'm a huge fan of Brittany C. Cherry. I think that she does that fantastically well. I'm also a huge fan of Kennedy Ryan, who handles the same type of thing. You know, she deals with trauma, with sadness, with grief, but she does it so amazingly well, you know, and maybe it is because I've read so many Kennedy Ryan that I was sort of approaching this and thinking this could be my next favorite new author, and it just really, really wasn't. There was no real subtlety to the relationship building. There was really no layers to the trauma and her overcoming her grief and sadness. It felt like it was resolved like that in the end. I didn't necessarily hate all of it. I really did kind of like her current day relationship with Smith, the new guy that she meets, who also has a ton of trauma that he's trying to deal with, and he has some issues and some dark secrets, but it just felt like, it really felt like it was way too much drama, way too much tragedy thrown into a very short book, and none of the elements were given enough weight, or were given enough consideration, or were given enough time to fully develop and really hit you, you know what I mean? So, and I feel like that's a lot to ask in one book. I feel like that is a ton to ask in one book, and especially a book that is a 6-hour audiobook, right? Like, I listened to this on 2.5 times speed, and I finished it in like 3 or 4 hours. And I just felt really unsatisfied. I felt very disappointed, and I just felt like it had such a great premise, and it had a lot of promise with the elements that were in there, but it was very, very, very underdeveloped. And so I was super disappointed in this, and ended up giving it 2 stars. I feel like a little... So when I give a book 2 stars, that means that it wasn't necessarily problematic. There wasn't anything that I would say, like, this is harmful, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of tend to reserve my 1-star rant reviews for things that I feel like are, hey, you need to quit doing this, author. So this book didn't have anything like that, but it was also just, I found myself just felt like I was reading filler. When I immediately realized, oh, this is what the plot is, it just felt like there was no tension here. And the heroine was very, very, very dull. She had no personality. She was a little bit, it was really kind of weird how she was so conflicted about being with this new guy, Smith, while she was still having like these visions or visitations, or I don't even know what you would call it, like hallucinations with her fiance who was dead, you know, like that felt very odd, and it just felt a little bit, it felt a little bit cheap. Like I hate this. I'm going to go ahead and say that I really hate when romance novels do this, when they focus so much on the whoever, heroine or hero, on the grief that they have for their wife or husband or partner or whatever who has passed away. I don't want to read about that in my romance. I just don't want to read about that. I feel like there can be an aspect of that grief handled, and I feel like it can be done really, really well. I know Brittany C. Cherry has done this in a few books where one of the partners in the romantic relationship was trying to overcome grief from their big love, you know? But I can't really put my finger on how some authors make that work for me and others don't. But I can tell you that I think that it really comes down to the subtleties and the nuances in the relationship and in the situation. And I feel like this felt just like it was very plot oriented, and it didn't really focus on that. There was very little nuance to the building of relationship and the building of feelings, while trying to, you know, set aside that, okay, my fiance has passed away. How do I move on from this, you know? So I felt like this had a lot of really sensitive issues that were not handled very well, as far as to make me believe that she was in love with this new guy and wasn't just trying to numb out physically with him. You know what I mean? So I overall felt like this was really pretty disappointing, and I'm kind of bummed. Hey, can you quit chewing your feet? I'm honestly kind of bummed. I have seen that, like, not very many of my friends have read this book, but the few who have given it 5 stars. And it just really wasn't for me. I just felt like it was, I've said what I've said. It just was lacking in depth, and it was lacking in development in all areas. Like, the plot device used for the whole thing felt very just heavy-handed. It needed more subtlety, and it needed more development, and it needed more nuance for me. So, 2 stars. Anyway, that's a book checked off. So I finished that. I was putting my groceries away. I'm getting ready to work. I have a shop update today that I'm getting ready for. So I have a ton of work that I need to do, and I want an audiobook to listen to. And so I picked one that is that I have been saving. Now I have had 3 books that I've been saving for, like, an emergency do not break glass in case of emergency type of read. One of them was One Good Earl Deserves a Lover, one of them was Dreaming of You, and this third one is The Wallflower Wager by Tessa. I have not read this yet. I have been saving this book just for a time when I wanted something happy and fun and easy to get into, and I love Tessa, and I don't know. I just was saving this. So I have the audio of this. It's another short one. It's a 6-hour audiobook. So I just picked it up, and I'm already on chapter 7. 100% loving this. It is so adorable. We have Lady Penelope, who takes care of all of these animals, and she is what they would call, like, she's known for being a spinster. She ends up trying to rescue her parrot who flew away, and ends up in the house of, who is he? It says he's Gabriel Duke, but I don't think that he's a member of, like, I don't think he has a title. It says he's wealthy and ruthless, clawed his way from the lowliest slums to the pinnacle of high society. So that is an interesting character. She ends up going to rescue her parrot because it flies into his house. She sees him just in a towel and is instantly like, it's just so cute and so fun. So I'm reading this. I'll keep you updated on this. And then I will give you my update for the Loraine Heath when I finish it, but I probably am not going to finish that until tomorrow because it's a busy work day, no time to physically read, and no audiobook for that. So that is a very long update, just to let you know what I've been reading and what I'm going to read, and I'll check back in with y'all later. Hello friends, I finished another book. I finished this on audio. It was a 6-hour audiobook. and listen to it on 2x speed, you get through it pretty quickly. So I finished this, The Wallflower Wager by Tessa. Hold on, let me change arms. I really liked it. It was 5-star read. It was just fun, hilarious, cute, romantic. It was just super sweet. I gave it a 5 stars, but it's not like I was blown away, but it was just such a fun and enjoyable read that it was worth 5 stars, but it wasn't one that necessarily like rocked my world, but it was still super great. Also, I just love the animals. I love that she loves animals, and I guess if you don't know what this story is about, this is about Penny and Gabriel. Gabriel's kind of like a rogue and a scoundrel. He's a self-made man. He ends up moving in next door to Penny, and Penny like takes in all these animals. She has a ton of different types of animals. Like she has a cow and an otter and a parrot that cusses all the time, which was probably my favorite part, and they just kind of are loud and smelly. And Gabe wants her to get rid of all the animals, and so she agrees as long as he helps her find good homes for them. So they end up trying to find good homes for all of the animals and fall in love. And it's very sweet and very swoony, and just really enjoyed it. It was super fun, and I mean, it's Tessa, it's going to be good. So 5 stars for that one. I will say content warning for mentions and kind of not a heavy plot line, but definitely comes into play towards the end for sexual assault, which I have not heard anyone mention that when they talk about this book, so I'm mentioning it just because I wasn't prepared. And I feel like when you go into Tessa, you usually go in thinking it's going to be super fun, lighthearted, and that kind of wasn't super heavy, but it was definitely mentioned in there. So still really loved it, and that was super fun. So okay, I'm done. I'm gonna finish the Loraine Heath and then wrap everything up.
This slow night will fade away. I'll wake up back to her.
Hi, Amy.
Good morning, my friends. It is actually the day after the readathon has ended, but I wanted to finish the last book that I had and talk to you about it to include in this vlog because it actually ended up probably being my favorite read of the week. It's a toss-up between this one and Hookshot by Kennedy Ryan. Those were definitely my favorite books that I read this week. So let's talk about it. So I read Scourge of My Heart by Loraine Heath. This is an e-arc that I received of this book. This releases on March 30th. And I absolutely freaking loved this. I loved this book so much. This is only my second Loraine Heath that I've read, and I have been really impressed with both of her books. Both of them have been 5-star reads for me. I loved this book so much. It was sort of like breathlessly romantic. I feel like this is one of the most romantic books that I have read in a really long time, and I just completely loved it. So this book follows Lady Kathleen and Griff. Lady Kathleen needs to marry a duke in order to inherit a cottage that her grandmother has left to her. She has a lot of emotional connection to this cottage, and it's been her dream to inherit it and live there. It's by the sea, and it just brings her good memories of her grandmother. Griff is the second son of a duke, or an earl. I think maybe an earl. The second son, I can't remember exactly. He's the second son. Is it a duke? Oh, I can't remember. I'm not... Something like that. I'm sorry that I don't remember it. And he is therefore considered a spare, and he has always felt like he is not as deserving as his brother who will inherit the title. And he definitely struggles a lot with those feelings of feeling like he's not worthy, like he's not good enough, like he's always sort of been pushed to the side, and that is a big emphasis on the plot in this book, which I actually really enjoyed. I feel like so often we either get the Duke as the hero, or we get like a self-made man, or we end up getting someone who's not of the peerage at all, and I can't even really think of another book that I'm sure there are, I just can't think of them at the moment, that has the hero be the second son, the spare. So this was really, really great. I really liked that. I loved these characters. Griff, he's the scoundrel. He's a bit of a scoundrel. Kathleen is a fabulous, I thought she was a great heroine. I felt like she really went after things that she wanted. I felt like there was also a bit of a conversation in this book about the roles of women and the sort of duality of men and women and how men can get away with certain things and women can't, which I thought was really great, and I haven't recognized that in a ton of historical romances that are... I feel like it's definitely becoming more of a thing with more recent releases, which I really love, but I know there are a few authors that will for sure mention that, but I didn't realize that Loraine Heath was one of them, so I really enjoyed that a lot. I love when that is questioned and brought into play in the story, and it's brought into the minds of our heroine especially, because a lot of times I feel like the heroines don't even recognize that or realize that there is that disparity there. I mean, I'm sure they do, but they just sort of go along with it because that's what was common at the time. Anyway, so she's actually friends with Griff's sister. They're really close friends, and she ends up sort of becoming friends with Griff too, and they end up working together to try and win the hand of the Duke for Kathleen, because the Duke has said he wants all young women to write him a letter about their accomplishments and about what they have to offer so that he can choose them as her Duchess. And so Griff takes it upon himself to help her with that. There are a lot of really pretty, clever, and interesting plot twists that go along with that I really don't want to reveal because I feel like they're really fun to find out when you read them, but there's a lot in this book that is not on the surface level, and I love and appreciate that so much, and so basically Griff and Kathleen, as they're working to try and win this Duke's hand, they start to have a lot of feelings for one another, and especially Griff really begins to fall for her. So Griff ends up getting his title revoked, or his inheritance and his lands and everything sort of definitely cast out because his father committed treason. So they end up having nothing. They get separated, Kathleen and Griff do, and they don't end up meeting together until a year later. And at that point, Griff has really changed and transformed. That's when he becomes the scoundrel, when he steps into that role. And that's also when we see him sort of rise up to take ownership in his life and to really, like, I love that. I love when you see characters who are brought so low and you get to see how they respond to that and how they're going to build their life back up. And I really loved his journey of building his life back up from having nothing and how he was protective of his sister and brother. It was so good. So their romance comes back into play when, like, they're not separated for much time in the book, but when he comes back into town, the Duke still hasn't proposed to Kathleen. And so there's a lot of, like, there's just so much longing between these two. Cassie, what are you doing? There's so much longing between these two, and especially Griff. Like, Griff longs and pines for Kathleen so much. Like, the way that he just pines for her, and he realizes that he loves her pretty early in the book, which I thought was also really fun. But I think that the thing that really put this over the top for me was just Lorraine did such an excellent job of just putting a lot of emphasis and a lot of feeling on small gestures between these two, and she did it from the point of view of each of them in that moment. So you could be right there with that character, like especially with Griff when he does a few things specifically with Kathleen where he, like, keeps something of hers for years, and, like, a ribbon in her hair he keeps, and it was so reminiscent of Derek Craven. He keeps it in his pocket until it gets to be so threadbare that he uses it as a bookmark, and she finds that it's there and she recognized it was hers, and it's just, like, it's just so romantic. It was just, that's the best way I can describe it. This is one of the most romantic books I have ever read, and that's what gave it a 5-star for me. Like, it's going to be one of my favorite books of the year because I just loved how that was captured. I feel like so often lately I've been reading a lot of books where I get a little bit of swoony feels, I get a little bit of the romance, but it feels like it's more about the physical aspect, it's more about the steam level, and we don't quite get that build-up of really romance, and this book delivered for me on that, and I loved it so much. It was so good, you guys. It was so good. I think that now that I'm talking about it, and maybe it's because I just barely finished it, I feel like this is probably my favorite book. I'm definitely buying a physical copy of this to keep because I just loved it so much. It was perfection. Now, I will say there were a few things in here, a few plot devices, a few things that usually don't always work for me, but they did here, and I don't know how I can tell you how that happened. I just know that I just freaking loved it. So 5 stars for that one. I loved and adored it, and if you like the type of things that I'm talking about, I would highly recommend you check this out because it was just a swoon fest. It was so good. Alright, that brings us to the end of the Kindle Clear Out Readathon. Thank you for coming along with me. I feel like I had a lot more to say in this video than I did in my first vlog, probably because I got back in the habit of vlogging, but I also felt like I read some books that I just really wanted to talk about a little bit more. Some things I didn't like, some things that I did like, and just really talking about books, and it was just so fun. So thank you for listening to this vlog. Thank you for watching this vlog. And as always, thank you so much, y'all, for subscribing and watching my videos, for liking them, for sharing them, for talking to me. I haven't done a great job of responding to comments. I'm going to do better at that, I promise. I just want y'all to know that I love and appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And I will see you next time with some excellent boiled potatoes. I'm just kidding. I don't know how to work this in, but isn't this adorable? Oh, Mr. Collins, if you know where this is from, 10 points to you. I will see y'all in my next video.